Picture a grand medieval hall, its stone walls echoing with the rustle of silk and the murmur of nobles exchanging secrets. High above, perched on gloved hands, are falcons regal, sharp-eyed, and commanding attention. These creatures weren't just birds, they were living symbols of power, wealth, and prestige. In the medieval world, falconry wasn't merely a pastime or a practical skill. It was an art form, a statement of one's place in the social hierarchy, and a reflection of the intricate culture of the aristocracy. But how did falconry, a practice rooted in the necessities of hunting, ascend to such heights? What made these birds of prey the ultimate status symbols in medieval courts? The story of falconry is one of ambition, artistry, and the lengths to which humans will go to assert their dominance, not just over nature, but over one another. It's a tale woven into the very fabric of medieval life, revealing the values, aspirations, and rivalries of those who sought to rise above the rest. Falcons were more than companions. They were extensions of their owners' identities, carefully chosen, meticulously trained, and proudly displayed. Owning the right bird could elevate a lord's reputation, while a poorly chosen falcon could spell social disaster. The art of falconry became a language of its own, a way for nobles to communicate their status, wealth, and even their political alliances without uttering a word. But to truly understand this phenomenon, we must journey back to the origins of falconry, tracing its evolution from a practical skill to a defining feature of aristocratic life. Along the way, we'll uncover the secrets of falcon training, the codes of conduct that governed the sport, and the surprising ways it shaped medieval society. So let's step into the world of medieval courts where falcons reigned supreme and discover how these majestic birds became the ultimate status symbols of their time. This is more than a story about falconry. It's a window into the values, aspirations, and complexities of the medieval world, and a reminder of how even the most unexpected practices can leave a lasting legacy. The origins of falconry stretch back thousands of years to the fertile lands of ancient Mesopotamia. Here, in the cradle of civilization, people first began to train birds of prey to hunt for food. The techniques they developed were practical, born out of necessity, as falcons provided a reliable source of meat in a landscape where survival often depended on skill and ingenuity. Over time, this utilitarian practice began to spread, carried along trade routes and through cultural exchanges across Asia. In places like Persia and Mongolia, falconry took on new dimensions, becoming not just a means of sustenance but a symbol of prestige and mastery over the natural world. By the time falconry reached Europe, it had already evolved into something far more complex than a simple hunting method. The early medieval period saw this ancient art embraced by the elite, particularly in the courts of kings and nobles. For them, falconry was more than a sport, it was a statement. The ability to train and command these magnificent creatures demonstrated not only wealth and leisure, but also a refined understanding of the natural world. Falcons were seen as extensions of their owner's power, their sharp eyes and swift movements mirroring the ambition and authority of those who held them. The training process itself was a mark of sophistication, requiring patience, skill, and a deep connection between handler and bird. Nobles would often compete to acquire the finest falcons, sometimes traveling great distances or paying exorbitant sums to secure the most prized specimens. These birds became symbols of status, their very presence signaling the owner's place at the top of the social hierarchy. By the high medieval period, falconry had become an integral part of courtly life, woven into the fabric of aristocratic culture. It was a pastime that combined elegance and utility, a way to showcase one's refinement while engaging in the thrill of the hunt. The adoption of falconry by the nobility transformed it from a practical skill into an art form, one that would leave an indelible mark on the medieval world. Through falconry, the elite articulated their dominance not just over the land and its creatures, but over the social order itself. This ancient practice, born in the deserts of Mesopotamia, had become a cornerstone of medieval identity, a testament to the enduring allure of power and prestige. In medieval society, the falcon was far more than a skilled hunter. It was a living emblem of power and prestige. The birds themselves were carefully chosen, with each species reflecting the status of its owner. For the highest ranks, such as emperors and kings, the gyrfalcon reigned supreme. This magnificent bird, with its striking white plumage and unmatched speed, symbolized the pinnacle of authority. Lesser nobles, meanwhile, might possess a peregrine falcon or even a sparrowhawk, with each bird marking its owner's place in the intricate hierarchy of the court. The choice of falcon was not merely a matter of preference, but a calculated display of one's position in the social order. The laws surrounding falconry further underscored its exclusivity. In many regions, strict regulations dictated who could own and fly these birds. Commoners were often barred from falconry entirely, and even among the nobility, there were clear distinctions. Only the highest ranks could hunt with the most prized species, while others were limited to more common birds. These laws were not just about preserving game, they were a way to reinforce the boundaries of class and privilege. To own a falcon was to possess a rare and valuable commodity, one that required significant resources to acquire and maintain. The birds were often imported from distant lands, adding to their allure and expense. Falcons also played a role in diplomacy and gift-giving. A rare or exceptionally trained bird was a highly sought-after present, exchanged between rulers as a gesture of goodwill or alliance. In some cases, falcons were even used as part of dowries, cementing marriages between noble families. These exchanges were more than symbolic. They were transactions of power, reinforcing the connections between the elite. The presence of a falcon in a noble's court was a constant reminder of their influence and the intricate web of relationships that sustained their position. The care and training of falcons required a level of expertise that further elevated their status. Master falconers were highly respected figures, often holding positions of honor in noble households. Their skill in managing these birds was seen as an art form, one that demanded years of dedication and knowledge. The relationship between a falconer and their bird was one of mutual respect and trust, a bond that mirrored the ideals of loyalty and service central to medieval society. Through falconry, the medieval elite crafted a world where every detail reinforced their dominance. The birds themselves, with their grace and power, became extensions of their owners' identities, embodying the values of nobility and command. In this way, falconry was not just a pastime but a carefully curated expression of medieval power, shaping the social and cultural landscapes of the time. Training a falcon was no simple task. It was a delicate art that demanded both skill and intuition. The process began with the careful selection of a bird, often taken from the nest as a young fledgling. This early bond between falconer and bird was crucial as it laid the foundation for trust. The falconer would spend countless hours with the bird, gently acclimating it to human presence and teaching it to respond to commands. This phase alone could take weeks, as the bird had to overcome its natural wariness and learn to see the falconer as a partner rather than a threat. One of the key tools in this process was the hood, a small leather covering placed over the falcon's head. This simple device served a vital purpose. It kept the bird calm by shielding it from visual distractions. A hooded falcon remained focused, allowing the falconer to transport it or prepare it for training without causing unnecessary stress. The hood became a symbol of the falconer's control, but it was also a testament to their care and understanding of the bird's needs. Once the falcon was accustomed to its surroundings, the training shifted to teaching it to hunt. This was where the lure came into play. The lure, often a piece of meat tied to a string or a feathered decoy, was used to mimic the movement of prey. The falconer would swing the lure in wide circles, encouraging the falcon to chase and catch it. Over time, the bird learned to associate the lure with food, honing its hunting instincts. This stage required immense patience, as the falconer had to repeat the exercise countless times, gradually increasing the distance and complexity of the chase. The relationship between falconer and bird was one of mutual respect. A well-trained falcon responded to its handler's signals with precision, but this obedience was not born out of fear, it was built on trust. The falconer's ability to communicate with the bird, to anticipate its needs and guide its actions, was seen as a mark of true mastery. In medieval courts, a skilled falconer was held in high regard, their expertise celebrated as a blend of science and art. This intricate training process also mirrored the values of the nobility. Just as a falconer shaped the behavior of their bird, so too did the elite seek to cultivate discipline and refinement within their own ranks. The falconer's patience and dedication became a metaphor for the virtues of leadership and self-control. Through falconry, the nobility not only displayed their wealth and status, but also their ability to command and inspire loyalty. The training of a falcon was, in many ways, a microcosm of the medieval court itself, a world where power was carefully maintained and shared through bonds of trust and mutual respect. Falconry was far more than a pastime, it was a language of power. In the medieval world, the gift of a falcon carried profound significance. When one noble presented another with a falcon, it was not merely a gesture of goodwill, it was a carefully calculated act of diplomacy. These birds, with their sharp eyes and swift wings, became living tokens of alliance, respect, and even submission. Kings and queens wielded falcons as tools of statecraft, exchanging them with foreign rulers to strengthen ties or broker peace. A falcon given in such a manner was a symbol of trust, a pledge that the giver valued the recipient's friendship or sought their favor. The falcon itself embodied the qualities of an ideal ruler: strength, precision, and unyielding focus. Its ability to strike with deadly accuracy mirrored the decisiveness demanded of a leader. Nobles who practiced falconry demonstrated their own mastery over these attributes, projecting an image of control and authority. In this way, the falcon became a living emblem of the very virtues that defined the medieval elite. To own a falcon was to proclaim one's status, to train one was to prove one's worth. Even the types of falcons used held symbolic weight. The gyrfalcon, with its snowy plumage and unmatched speed, was the most prized of all. Native to the Arctic, these birds were rare and costly, making them the ultimate status symbol. Only the wealthiest and most powerful could afford such a bird, and to possess one was to announce one's place at the pinnacle of society. Lesser nobles might make do with hawks or kestrels, but the gyrfalcon was reserved for kings and emperors, a visual reminder of their supremacy. Falconry also played a role in the pageantry of court life. Royal hunts were grand spectacles, meticulously staged to showcase the monarch's prowess. Nobles and foreign dignitaries would gather to watch as the king's falcon soared through the sky, their every movement a testament to his skill and dominion. These events were more than entertainment. they were displays of power designed to awe and impress. The falcon, in these moments, became a living extension of the ruler's authority, its flight a metaphor for their reach and control. Through falconry, the medieval elite communicated their aspirations and ambitions. The birds they trained and gifted were not just animals, they were instruments of politics, symbols of identity, and reflections of the world they sought to dominate. In the hands of a skilled falconer, a falcon became more than a hunter. It became a statement, a declaration of power that echoed across the courts of Europe. The hierarchy of falconry was a mirror of the medieval world itself, strict, unyielding, and deeply symbolic. Each bird in the falconer's arsenal was matched to the rank and status of its owner, creating a living representation of the feudal system. At the pinnacle stood the gyrfalcon, a bird so rare and majestic that its ownership was restricted to kings and emperors. This Arctic predator, with its striking white feathers and unmatched speed, was more than just a hunting companion. It was a declaration of sovereignty. To wield a gyrfalcon was to assert one's place at the very top of the social order, a visual reminder of divine right and earthly power. Just below the gyrfalcon came the peregrine falcon, a bird admired for its agility and precision. Reserved for princes, dukes, and high-ranking nobles, the peregrine symbolized ambition and prowess. Its ability to dive at incredible speeds made it a favorite for hunting, and its noble bearing reflected the aspirations of those who flew it. Lesser nobles, such as barons and knights, often trained Merlin's smaller, swift birds that were easier to obtain yet still carried an air of distinction. Even within this tiered system, the choice of bird was a statement, a way for nobles to signal their place in the intricate web of medieval society. The hierarchy extended beyond the birds to the falconers themselves. Master falconers were highly respected figures, often holding positions of influence within the court. Their expertise was not just in training birds, but in navigating the delicate politics of their role. A falconer's ability to manage a noble's hawks and falcons was a reflection of their own skill and status. In many ways, the falconer's profession was a microcosm of the feudal order, with each individual's rank and responsibilities carefully defined. This rigid structure was no accident. Falconry, as a practice, reinforced the ideals of hierarchy and order that underpinned medieval life. The careful categorization of birds and their handlers served as a daily reminder of one's place in the world. It was a system designed to uphold the status quo, ensuring that every noble, from the king to the lowliest knight, understood their role and their limits. Through falconry, the medieval elite not only celebrated their power but also perpetuated the social structures that sustained it. The birds they trained, the rituals they followed, and the roles they assigned were all part of a broader narrative, one that affirmed the divine and earthly order of their world. In each falcon's flight, there was a lesson in loyalty, discipline, and the unbreakable bonds of hierarchy. Falconry's presence in medieval literature was as much a testament to its cultural importance as its role in the courts. Across poems, romances, and even religious texts, falcons became powerful symbols, embodying the virtues of nobility, love, and chivalry. In the anonymous poem The Knight of the Swan, the falcon is not merely a bird but a representation of the knight's unwavering purity and inner strength. Its flight mirrored the knight's journey, graceful, purposeful, and untethered by earthly constraints. This metaphorical use of falconry elevated it from a pastime to a narrative device, one that conveyed the ideals of the medieval aristocracy. The connection between falconry and chivalry was particularly strong. Knights were often compared to falcons. Both were seen as embodiments of discipline, courage, and loyalty. In the Arthurian romances, for instance, the falcon's keen eyesight and swift pursuit of its prey were metaphors for the knight's unwavering focus on his quest. The bird's return to its handler symbolized the knight's commitment to his lord, a bond that was both literal and allegorical. This interplay between falconry and chivalric ideals helped solidify the sport's place in the medieval imagination, making it a recurring motif in tales of adventure and heroism. Falconry also found its way into expressions of courtly love. In many medieval romances, a lady's favor was often symbolized by a falcon's feather or even the bird itself. The act of gifting a falcon was seen as a gesture of deep affection and trust, reflecting the refined emotions of the courtly love tradition. In the poem The Romance of the Rose, the falcon becomes a metaphor for the beloved's beauty and grace, its flight mirroring the lover's heart as it soars with admiration. These literary references not only highlighted the bird's elegance, but also reinforced its role as a symbol of the highest virtues both in love and in life. Beyond poetry and romance, falconry also appeared in moral and religious texts, often as a metaphor for spiritual guidance. In medieval bestiaries, the falcon was described as a creature that sought the heights, drawing parallels to the soul's aspiration for divine connection. This dual role, as both a symbol of earthly nobility and spiritual striving, made the falcon a versatile and enduring figure in medieval literature. Its presence in these texts ensured that falconry remained a vivid and resonant part of the cultural landscape, one that spoke to the values and aspirations of the age. Through these literary depictions, falconry became more than a sport or a status symbol. It became a lens through which medieval society viewed itself. The falcon's flight, its loyalty, and its grace were all reflections of the ideals that shaped the medieval world. In the pages of these works, falconry transcended its practical origins, becoming a timeless emblem of nobility, love, and the eternal pursuit of virtue. The economics of falconry highlight just how deeply intertwined the sport was with wealth and status in medieval society. Owning a falcon was no simple affair. It required a significant financial investment, often far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Falcons were not just birds, they were luxury items meticulously sourced from some of the most remote corners of the known world. Birds like the gyrfalcon, native to the icy cliffs of Iceland and Greenland, were especially prized for their rarity and striking beauty. Transporting these birds across vast distances was a costly and complex endeavor, involving networks of traders, handlers, and middlemen who specialized in the art of falcon capture and transport. The care of these birds was equally demanding. Falcons required a team of skilled falconers to train them, tend to their needs, and ensure their health and readiness for hunting. Falconry manuals of the time detailed intricate diets, proper housing, and even medical treatments for the birds, all of which added to the expense. A single falcon's upkeep could rival the cost of maintaining a small household, making it clear why only the wealthiest nobles and kings could afford such a pursuit. This exclusivity was part of the appeal. Falconry was not just a hobby but a clear marker of one's social standing. The trade in falcons itself became a thriving industry, with merchants and falconers forming guilds to regulate the market. These specialists developed sophisticated methods for capturing wild birds, often traveling great distances to secure the finest specimens. Some falconers even became minor celebrities in their own right, renowned for their skill in training birds of prey. The demand for falcons created a bustling trade route that stretched from the Arctic Circle to the courts of Europe, with birds changing hands for exorbitant sums. In some cases, falcons were even used as diplomatic gifts, exchanged between rulers to cement alliances or demonstrate goodwill. the financial barriers to falconry were so high that laws were often enacted to restrict its practice to the nobility. In England, for example, the forest laws of the medieval period reserved certain birds of prey exclusively for the king and his court, with severe penalties for anyone caught poaching them. This legal framework reinforced the idea that falconry was not just a sport but a privilege, one that underscored the vast divide between the aristocracy and the common people. Through its economic demands, falconry became a powerful symbol of affluence and prestige. The ability to own and maintain these magnificent birds was a testament to one's wealth, influence, and connection to the elite circles of medieval society. It was a pastime that spoke not just of hunting prowess but of the broader social and economic structures that defined the age. In this way, falconry was more than a status symbol. It was a vivid expression of the power and privilege of the medieval aristocracy. Falconry's gendered dynamics reveal much about the social hierarchies and expectations of medieval Europe. While the sport was overwhelmingly dominated by men, noblewomen found ways to carve out their own space within this elite pastime. Women of high status often trained and flew smaller birds like merlins or sparrowhawks, which were seen as more appropriate for their perceived grace and delicacy. These birds, while less imposing than the massive gyrfalcons favored by kings, were no less skillful in the hunt, and their use allowed women to participate in falconry without challenging the era's rigid gender norms. For noblewomen, falconry was not just a pastime but a way to display their refinement and education. Handling a bird of prey required patience, discipline, and knowledge traits that aligned with the ideal of the cultivated medieval lady. Manuscripts and tapestries from the period often depict women with their falcons, dressed in elegant gowns and posed with an air of serene confidence. These images reinforced the idea that falconry was a sophisticated pursuit, one that enhanced a woman's social standing and symbolized her family's wealth and prestige. Yet, even as women participated in falconry, their involvement was carefully circumscribed by societal expectations. They were rarely seen engaged in the more strenuous aspects of the sport, such as long hunts on horseback or the training of larger, more aggressive birds. Instead, their role was often limited to the more controlled and ceremonial aspects of falconry, reflecting the broader constraints placed on women in medieval society. The gendered nature of falconry also extended to the birds themselves. Different species were assigned symbolic meanings, with smaller birds like merlins associated with femininity and larger birds like eagles embodying masculine power. This symbolism was deeply ingrained in the culture of the time, shaping not only who could participate in falconry but also how it was practiced and perceived. Despite these limitations, some women defied expectations and became skilled falconers in their own right. Historical accounts mention women who excelled in training and flying birds, earning admiration and respect even in a male-dominated world. Their stories hint at the possibility of greater female agency within the sport, even if such instances were exceptions rather than the rule. Falconry, then, was more than just a reflection of medieval gender roles. It was a microcosm of the social order itself. Through the lens of this sport, we can see how power, privilege, and identity were negotiated in a society that valued both hierarchy and tradition. For noblewomen, falconry offered a rare opportunity to engage in a prestigious activity, even as it underscored the boundaries they were expected to observe. In this way, the sport became a fascinating intersection of culture, class, and gender in the medieval world. By the late medieval period, the world was changing rapidly, and falconry's golden age began to wane. The rise of firearms revolutionized hunting, making it faster and more efficient to bring down game with a gun than with a bird of prey. This technological shift undermined one of falconry's key practical purposes, as the sport could no longer compete with the speed and precision of firearms. At the same time, societal shifts were reshaping the tastes and interests of the aristocracy. New forms of entertainment emerged, from elaborate court masques to the growing popularity of theater, diverting attention from traditional pursuits like falconry. Yet, even as its practical importance faded, falconry clung to its symbolic power. For the nobility, it remained a cherished tradition, a way to connect with their ancestors and assert their place in a rapidly evolving world. The sport became less about hunting and more about performance, a theatrical display of wealth and lineage. Falcons and hawks were still flown at grand events, their presence signaling the host's deep roots in the aristocratic past. In this way, falconry became a living artifact, a relic of a bygone era preserved for its cultural resonance. The decline of falconry also reflected broader changes in medieval society. As feudalism gave way to centralized monarchies and urban economies, the old ways of life began to disappear. The sprawling estates that had once been essential for falconry were increasingly fragmented or repurposed, and the intricate networks of falconers, trainers, and suppliers that had sustained the sport began to unravel. Yet, even as these changes unfolded, the legacy of falconry endured. It left an indelible mark on art and literature, appearing in illuminated manuscripts, heraldic symbols, and poetic works that celebrated its beauty and nobility. In many ways, the story of falconry's decline is a microcosm of the medieval world's transformation. It reflects the tension between tradition and progress, between the old ways and the new. While the sport may have lost its practical relevance, its cultural significance continued to resonate, a reminder of an age when the bond between human and bird symbolized the highest ideals of courtly life. Even today, falconry's legacy lives on, a testament to its enduring fascination and the profound impact it had on the medieval imagination. Falconry's significance extended far beyond the confines of royal courts and hunting grounds. It also found a place in the spiritual and religious fabric of medieval life. Falcons, with their keen eyesight and soaring flight, became powerful symbols in Christian thought, often embodying themes of vigilance, purity, and divine protection. Artists and writers of the time frequently drew parallels between the falcon's ability to ascend to great heights and the soul's journey toward God. In religious texts and iconography, the falcon was sometimes depicted as a messenger of heaven, its swift and precise movements reflecting the guidance of divine will. This spiritual symbolism added a profound layer of meaning to falconry, intertwining it with the broader religious currents of the Middle Ages. The falcon's role as both a hunter and a sacred creature created a duality that resonated deeply with medieval audiences. On one hand, it represented the worldly pursuits of the nobility, hunting, status, and power. On the other hand, it served as a reminder of the eternal, a bridge between the earthly and the divine. This dual role made falconry uniquely suited to the medieval mindset, where the sacred and the secular often overlapped in surprising ways. Monks and theologians of the period also found inspiration in the falcon's behavior. The bird's ability to focus intently on its prey was likened to the soul's need for unwavering faith and concentration in prayer. Some religious texts even describe the falcon's training as a metaphor for spiritual discipline, with the falconer representing God and the bird symbolizing the devout soul striving for obedience and grace. This imagery helped reinforce the idea that falconry was not just a pastime but a practice with deeper spiritual dimensions. The falcon's presence in religious art further cemented its symbolic importance. Illuminated manuscripts, stained glass windows, and church carvings often featured falcons as emblems of spiritual ascent or divine intervention. In these works, the bird's flight was depicted as a metaphor for the soul's journey toward salvation, its wings carrying it effortlessly toward the heavens. For medieval Christians, these images served as powerful reminders of the connection between the physical and spiritual worlds, with falconry acting as a tangible expression of that bond. By incorporating falconry into religious symbolism, the medieval world elevated the sport from a mere aristocratic hobby to a practice rich with spiritual meaning. It became a way to explore profound questions about faith, discipline, and the human relationship with the divine. Even as the practical aspects of falconry faded, its symbolic legacy endured, leaving an indelible mark on the cultural and spiritual landscape of the Middle Ages. Falconry's influence extended beyond the hunting fields and religious symbolism, finding a prominent place in the visual language of medieval heraldry. Falcons became a favorite motif in coats of arms and crests, serving as powerful symbols of aristocratic identity and virtue. When a noble family chose the falcon as their heraldic emblem, they were not merely selecting a bird, they were invoking qualities like courage, speed, and nobility that the falcon represented. These images were more than decorative, they were statements of lineage, power, and prestige, carefully crafted to communicate a family's standing in the social hierarchy. The way falcons were depicted in heraldry carried specific meanings. A falcon with its wings spread wide, for instance, often symbolized vigilance or readiness to act, a fitting choice for a family that prided itself on its watchfulness and strength. A falcon in flight, soaring high, might represent ambition or a vision that transcended earthly concerns. Even the falcon's posture could convey subtle messages. A bird perched calmly on a gloved hand could signify control and discipline, while one in mid-flight with talons extended might evoke the ferocity of a warrior. These heraldic falcons were not just generic symbols, they were tailored to reflect the unique values and history of the families that bore them. For example, a knight who had distinguished himself in battle might choose a falcon in a dynamic, aggressive pose to emphasize his martial prowess. Meanwhile, a noblewoman known for her wisdom and grace might incorporate a more serene falcon into her personal crest, highlighting qualities like poise and discernment. The use of falcons in heraldry also underscored the deep connection between falconry and the medieval aristocracy. Owning and training falcons was a privilege reserved for the elite, and displaying a falcon in one's coat of arms was a way to claim that exclusivity. It was a visual shorthand for a lifestyle that combined refinement, skill, and authority. Over time, these heraldic falcons became enduring symbols, passed down through generations as a way to preserve and celebrate a family's legacy. Even after the practical aspects of falconry began to fade, the falcon's presence in heraldry ensured its lasting impact on European culture. These emblems adorned everything from tapestries and seals to armor and banners, serving as constant reminders of the virtues they represented. Today, the heraldic falcon remains a striking symbol of the medieval world's values, a testament to the enduring power of this noble bird in shaping the identity of the aristocracy. Falconry wasn't just a pastime for the medieval aristocracy, it was a defining feature of their culture and identity. In a world where hunting was one of the primary leisure activities of the elite, falconry stood apart as the pinnacle of sophistication. Unlike the chaotic, noisy hunts with hounds, falconry was a quiet, deliberate pursuit that showcased the hunter's skill and the bird's natural grace. It was a partnership, a dance between human and animal that required patience, precision, and a profound understanding of the falcon's instincts. This artistry made falconry more than just a sport, it was a statement of refinement. The process of training a falcon was no simple task. It began with a careful selection of the bird, often captured from the wild at a young age. Falcons were prized for their keen eyesight, speed, and agility, but these qualities also made them fiercely independent creatures. Taming a falcon required weeks, sometimes months, of patient work. The falconer would spend hours feeding the bird by hand, slowly building trust and teaching it to respond to commands. This bond between falconer and bird was central to the practice, transforming the hunt into a collaborative effort rather than a mere display of dominance over nature. For the nobility, falconry was also a way to demonstrate their wealth and status. Owning and maintaining a falcon was a costly endeavor. Birds of prey were expensive to acquire, and their care required specialized handlers, spacious mews, and a steady supply of fresh meat. Only the wealthiest could afford the finest falcons, often imported from distant lands, and the most skilled falconers to train them. This exclusivity added to the allure of falconry, making it a symbol of privilege and power. Beyond its practical and symbolic aspects, falconry was deeply intertwined with the social rituals of the aristocracy. Hunts were often elaborate affairs, with guests gathering to watch the falconer and bird in action. These events were as much about networking and display as they were about the hunt itself. The falcon, perched on its handler's glove, became a living emblem of its owner's sophistication and command. Even those who didn't actively participate in falconry admired it as an art form, and falconry manuals filled with advice on training and care became prized possessions in noble libraries. In this way, falconry transcended its role as a hunting practice, becoming a cornerstone of medieval aristocratic culture. It reflected the values of the elite patience, skill, and mastery over nature, while also serving as a powerful symbol of their social standing. Through falconry, the nobility didn't just hunt, they performed their identity, showcasing their refinement and authority in a way that left a lasting imprint on the medieval world. The global spread of falconry reveals just how deeply this practice resonated across cultures and continents. While it's often linked to medieval Europe, falconry's roots stretch far beyond its borders. In the Middle East, falconry was already a well-established tradition long before it reached European courts. Arab falconers were renowned for their expertise, and their methods influenced European practices significantly. Falcons from the region, prized for their speed and endurance, were highly sought after, often gifted as diplomatic tokens between rulers. This exchange of knowledge and birds created a bridge between cultures, blending techniques and enriching the art of falconry. In Asia, falconry took on its own unique flavor. In places like Mongolia and China, falconry wasn't just a sport for the elite, but also a practical skill for nomadic tribes. Golden eagles, with their immense strength, were trained to hunt large prey like foxes and even wolves. This adaptation of falconry to local environments and needs highlights its versatility and universal appeal. Across the vast steppes, falconry became a way of life, deeply embedded in the traditions and survival strategies of the people. The Vikings, too, played a role in spreading falconry across Europe. As they traveled and traded, they brought falconry practices with them, introducing these techniques to new regions. Scandinavian falconers were particularly skilled, and their birds, like the gyrfalcon, were highly valued. This cross-cultural exchange wasn't limited to Europe and Asia. Even in North Africa, falconry thrived, with Berber tribes developing their own distinct styles. What's fascinating is how these diverse traditions shared a common thread: the reverence for the falcon and the bond between hunter and bird. Whether in the deserts of Arabia, the grasslands of Mongolia, or the forests of Europe, falconry was more than just a method of hunting. It was a reflection of human ingenuity and a testament to the shared admiration for these majestic creatures. This universality elevated falconry beyond regional boundaries, transforming it into a global symbol of nobility and sophistication. As falconry spread, it became a medium for cultural exchange. treatises on falconry were translated and shared, and falconers from different regions learned from one another. This collaborative spirit enriched the practice, introducing new techniques and refining old ones. The result was a vibrant, evolving art form that transcended its origins, becoming a testament to the interconnectedness of medieval societies. Through falconry, the world was reminded that beauty, skill, and shared passions could unite even the most distant cultures. The exchange of falcons as diplomatic gifts reveals just how intertwined falconry was with the politics of the medieval world. Rulers understood that a well-trained bird wasn't just a symbol of wealth, it was a gesture of respect, a statement of trust, and a bridge between kingdoms. A falcon presented as a gift carried with it the prestige of its giver, often serving as a subtle yet powerful tool in negotiations. Kings and emperors knew that offering a rare or expertly trained falcon could speak louder than words, smoothing tensions or sealing alliances with a single, meaningful gesture. One of the most famous examples of this practice comes from the court of Frederick II, Holy Roman Emperor. Known for his passion for falconry, Frederick often sent falcons as gifts to other monarchs, including the Sultan of Egypt. These exchanges weren't just about the birds themselves, but also about the knowledge and techniques that came with them. Frederick's treatise on falconry, which drew heavily on Arabic sources, was itself a product of this cultural exchange, showcasing how falconry could foster intellectual as well as political connections. The practice extended beyond Europe, with falcons serving as diplomatic tokens in the courts of the Middle East and Asia. In the Islamic world, falconry was deeply respected, and gifting a prized falcon was seen as a mark of honor. When Mongol leaders sought to establish alliances, they often included falcons among their offerings, recognizing their universal appeal. Even in regions where falconry wasn't practiced, the symbolism of these birds representing power, grace, and freedom made them universally admired and understood. This tradition of gifting falcons highlights how falconry transcended its role as a mere pastime. It became a language of its own, one that rulers across cultures and continents could speak. Whether used to forge alliances, negotiate treaties, or simply convey goodwill, falcons were more than just birds, they were ambassadors in feathered form. This blending of art and diplomacy underscores the profound impact falconry had on the medieval world, shaping not just the lives of those who practiced it, but also the course of history itself. Though falconry may no longer dominate the courts of kings or serve as a symbol of political power, its legacy continues to resonate in surprising ways. Today, the practice is kept alive by a dedicated community of enthusiasts who honor the ancient traditions passed down through centuries. These modern falconers train their birds with the same patience and precision as their medieval predecessors, ensuring that this art form remains a living link to the past. But falconry's influence extends far beyond the field. It has left an indelible mark on culture, shaping literature, art, and even the way we approach the natural world. From the pages of medieval manuscripts to the canvases of Renaissance painters, falconry has inspired countless works of art. Writers like Chaucer and Shakespeare wove falconry into their stories, using it as a metaphor for power, loyalty, and the complexities of human relationships. Artists captured the majesty of these birds in intricate detail, immortalizing their grace and strength. Even in more recent times, falconry appears in films and literature, a reminder of its enduring allure. Perhaps one of the most unexpected legacies of falconry is its role in modern wildlife conservation. The techniques developed by falconers over centuries have been adapted to help rehabilitate injured birds of prey and reintroduce endangered species into the wild. Falconers' deep understanding of raptor behavior has proven invaluable in efforts to protect these majestic creatures. In this way, an ancient practice has found new purpose in the fight to preserve biodiversity. Falconry's lasting impact is a testament to its unique place in human history. It's more than just a sport or a pastime. It's a tradition that has shaped our relationship with the natural world and inspired generations of artists, writers, and conservationists. As long as there are those who cherish its legacy, the spirit of falconry will continue to soar, bridging the gap between the past and the present. The artistry of medieval falconry is a vivid window into the values and aspirations of the time. Falcons, with their piercing eyes and poised elegance, became a favorite subject in the hands of skilled craftsmen and painters. These birds were not merely creatures of the hunt. They were symbols of the very ideals that medieval courts sought to embody. In tapestries woven with intricate detail, falcons were often placed alongside noble figures, their presence a testament to the owner's prestige and refinement. Every feather, every curve of their beak was rendered with such care that it almost felt as though the birds could leap from the fabric itself. Paintings, too, carried the weight of falconry's symbolism. Artists like Hieronymus Bosch and Jan van Eyck included falcons in their works as emblems of power and grace. In Van Eyck's Arnolfini portrait, for instance, the falcon perched in the background serves as a subtle yet powerful reminder of the couple's elevated status. Even in religious art, falcons appeared as metaphors for divine authority, their mastery over the skies paralleling the spiritual dominion of saints and angels. Sculptures and manuscripts further cemented the falcon's place in medieval culture. Carved into the stone of cathedrals or inlaid in precious metals, these birds adorned everything from thrones to reliquaries. Illuminated manuscripts often featured falconry scenes, their vibrant colors and delicate lines capturing the essence of this aristocratic pursuit. These works were more than decorative. They were a language of their own, speaking of lineage, honor, and the intricate bonds between humans and nature. What makes these artistic depictions so compelling is the depth of meaning they carry. The falcon wasn't just a bird, it was a reflection of the artist's skill, the patron's ambition, and the era's fascination with the natural world. Through these works, we can glimpse the medieval imagination, where every stroke of the brush or chisel was imbued with purpose and passion. The ethics of falconry offer a compelling contrast to its romanticized image in medieval courts. While the practice was admired for its artistry and sophistication, it's impossible to ignore the challenges faced by the birds themselves. Wild falcons were often captured using nets or traps, a process that could be stressful and even dangerous for these majestic creatures. Once in captivity, the training process required patience and skill, but it could also involve methods that modern audiences might find troubling. Birds were sometimes deprived of food to make them more compliant, and their natural instincts were suppressed to ensure they could be controlled by their human handlers. From a contemporary perspective, this raises important questions about the treatment of animals in the name of human prestige. Falcons, though revered, were ultimately tools of status and power, their well-being often secondary to their role in enhancing their owners' reputations. The bond between falconer and bird, while celebrated, was not always one of mutual respect. Instead, it was a relationship shaped by dominance, reflecting the hierarchical nature of medieval society itself. Yet, it's also worth considering the broader context of the time. Falcons were not just symbols of wealth, they were integral to the survival and culture of many communities. Falconry provided food, employment, and a sense of identity for countless people. In an era where the natural world was deeply intertwined with daily life, the practice was a reflection of humanity's attempts to understand and coexist with nature. This duality invites us to reflect on how we view historical practices through a modern lens. Falconry, like many traditions, carries both beauty and complexity. It reminds us that our relationship with the natural world has always been fraught with tension, even as we strive to admire and connect with it. By examining these ethical questions, we gain a more nuanced understanding of falconry's legacy, one that honors its cultural significance while acknowledging the challenges it posed to the creatures at its heart. Falconry's connection to the natural world reveals a fascinating dynamic between medieval humans and their environment. Falcons, as apex predators, played a vital role in maintaining ecological balance by controlling populations of smaller animals like rabbits, rodents, and birds. This natural pest control benefited agricultural lands and hunting grounds alike, making falcons not just symbols of status, but also practical contributors to the sustainability of medieval ecosystems. In aristocratic estates, falcons were often released to hunt in carefully managed forests and fields, where their presence underscored the harmony and sometimes the tension between human ambition and the natural order. For the medieval aristocracy, falconry was more than a pastime. It was a way to showcase their mastery over nature. The ability to train and command such powerful creatures was seen as a mark of nobility, a demonstration of both skill and dominance. Yet, this relationship was far from one-sided. Falcons, with their fierce independence and keen instincts, often resisted the constraints imposed by their human handlers. This push and pull dynamic reflected a broader medieval worldview, where nature was both revered and exploited, a resource to be harnessed, but also a force to be respected. This interplay between humans and the environment also highlights the cultural significance of falconry in the Middle Ages. Falcons were not just tools for hunting, they were living symbols of the wild, untamed spirit of the natural world. Their presence in courtly life served as a constant reminder of humanity's place within a larger ecological system, even as medieval societies sought to control and shape their surroundings. The falcon's untamed nature remained a powerful metaphor for the limits of human authority. Ultimately, falconry offers a window into the complex relationship between medieval people and the ecosystems they inhabited. It was a practice that celebrated the beauty and power of nature while simultaneously seeking to bend it to human will. This duality speaks to a deeper truth about our connection to the natural world, one that continues to resonate today as we grapple with questions of sustainability, conservation, and our role within the broader web of life. Falconry was far more than a leisure activity for young nobles. It was a cornerstone of their education, shaping them into capable and ethical leaders. From a young age, aristocratic children were introduced to the art of training falcons, a practice that demanded not just physical skill but also mental fortitude. They learned to handle the birds with care, understanding their behaviors and needs, which required immense patience and attention to detail. This hands-on experience cultivated discipline, as even the slightest error in handling could lead to the falcon's escape or injury. Beyond the practical aspects, falconry imparted important moral lessons. The relationship between a falconer and their bird was built on mutual respect, teaching young nobles the value of nurturing and understanding another living being. This bond emphasized the importance of empathy and responsibility, qualities that were essential for those destined to lead. The falcon, with its fierce independence and dignity, also served as a powerful symbol of nobility, inspiring young learners to embody similar traits in their own lives. The educational benefits of falconry extended to broader life lessons. Training a falcon required negotiation rather than force, as these birds could not be compelled to obey through fear or aggression. This taught young nobles the power of patience and persuasion, skills that would prove invaluable in diplomacy and governance. The unpredictability of the hunt itself became a metaphor for leadership, reminding them to remain adaptable and resourceful in the face of challenges. Falconry also connected young nobles to the natural world, fostering a deep appreciation for the environment. They learned to read the landscape, understanding the delicate balance of ecosystems and the role of predators within them. This awareness instilled a sense of stewardship, encouraging them to protect and preserve the lands they would one day oversee. In this way, falconry was not just a training ground for skills but a school for character, preparing young aristocrats to lead with wisdom, respect, and integrity. The lessons of falconry resonated far beyond the medieval period, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire. Today, the practice remains a reminder of the timeless values of patience, discipline, and harmony with nature, offering insights into how we can navigate our own roles within the world. For the young nobles of the Middle Ages, falconry was more than a sport. It was a profound education in the art of living well. The influence of falconry on fashion was as striking as it was enduring, weaving its way into the very fabric of medieval aristocratic life. Falconry equipment like gloves, hoods, and jesses transcended their practical uses, becoming symbols of status and style. These items were meticulously crafted, often adorned with elaborate embroidery, precious metals, and even gemstones, transforming them into wearable art. A falconer's glove, for instance, wasn't just a protective tool, it was a statement piece showcasing the owner's wealth and sophistication. The finest gloves were made from the softest leather, dyed in rich colors, and embellished with intricate patterns that reflected the craftsmanship of the era. Hoods, designed to calm the falcons by blocking their vision, became another canvas for artistic expression. Made from sumptuous fabrics like velvet or silk, these hoods were often decorated with gold or silver thread, creating stunning designs that caught the eye. The jesses, the thin straps tied to the falcon's legs, were equally ornate, sometimes featuring small bells that chimed delicately, adding an air of elegance to the hunt. These accessories weren't just functional, they were a visible sign of one's place in the social hierarchy, a way to flaunt one's taste and resources. Beyond the equipment itself, falconry inspired broader fashion trends. The silhouette of the falconer's attire, with its fitted sleeves, flowing cloaks, and practical yet refined cuts, became a template for aristocratic clothing. Nobles began incorporating elements of falconry gear into their everyday wear, blending utility with luxury. The colors and motifs associated with falconry, such as earthy tones and avian imagery, also found their way into textiles, tapestries, and even jewelry. This fusion of function and fashion created a distinctive aesthetic that permeated medieval courts. The influence of falconry on fashion extended even to the design of accessories like belts, pouches, and hats, which often featured falcon-themed embellishments. These items served as subtle nods to the wearer's participation in the elite pastime, reinforcing their identity as a member of the upper echelons of society. Even those who didn't practice falconry sought to emulate its style, adopting its symbols and motifs as a way to align themselves with the nobility. This blending of falconry and fashion wasn't just about appearance, it was a reflection of the values and aspirations of the medieval elite. By incorporating falconry into their attire, they were celebrating the virtues of the hunt, mastery, elegance, and a connection to nature. The result was a cultural phenomenon that reshaped medieval aesthetics, leaving a legacy that can still be seen in the art and design of the period. Falconry wasn't just a sport, it was a way of life, and its influence on fashion remains a testament to its enduring allure. Falconry wasn't just a private pursuit of the elite, it was also a public spectacle, often taking center stage at medieval festivals and tournaments. These events were more than mere entertainment. They were grand displays of power, wealth, and skill, and falcons played a starring role. Imagine a bustling festival ground filled with the sounds of music, laughter, and the distant flutter of wings. Nobles would arrive with their most prized birds perched proudly on their wrists, their gleaming hoods and jesses catching the sunlight. These birds were more than hunting companions. They were living symbols of their owner's prestige, meticulously trained and groomed to perfection. Tournaments provided a platform for falconers to demonstrate their expertise, often in elaborate competitions designed to test both bird and handler. Falcons might be timed as they chased down prey or judged on their precision and grace in flight. These contests weren't just about winning, they were about proving one's place in the social hierarchy. A well-trained falcon reflected the skill and dedication of its owner, and a victory could elevate a noble's reputation among their peers. Festivals, on the other hand, offered a chance to display falcons as part of a larger celebration of aristocratic culture. Birds were paraded through the streets, their presence adding an air of majesty to the proceedings. Sometimes, falcons were even used in symbolic rituals, released into the air to mark the start of a festival or to honor a visiting dignitary. These moments were deeply symbolic, reinforcing the connection between falconry and the ideals of nobility, grace, control, and mastery over nature. For the common folk, these events were a rare opportunity to glimpse the world of the aristocracy. Watching a falcon soar through the air or seeing its intricate equipment up close was a source of awe and fascination. Falcons became part of the shared cultural imagination, celebrated in songs, stories, and artwork. They were more than birds, they were icons of a lifestyle that most could only dream of. Falconry's role in festivals and tournaments also had a diplomatic function. Presenting a prized falcon as a gift could cement alliances or seal treaties, while sharing in the hunt or a falconry competition could foster camaraderie between rival nobles. These birds were not just status symbols, they were tools of diplomacy woven into the fabric of medieval politics. The prominence of falconry in public life ensured its place as a defining feature of medieval culture. Whether through the thrill of a tournament or the pageantry of a festival, falcons captivated audiences and reinforced the ideals of the aristocracy. These events were a testament to the enduring allure of falconry, a tradition that transcended its practical origins to become a cornerstone of medieval public life. The medieval falconers were not just skilled practitioners of their craft, they were also early pioneers in the study of birds, their insights forming the foundation of what would later become ornithology. These falconers spent countless hours observing their birds, meticulously noting their behaviors, habits, and physical traits. Their observations weren't just practical, they were deeply scientific, driven by a need to understand the creatures they worked with so intimately. Over time, this knowledge was compiled into detailed treatises, many of which have survived to this day. These manuscripts offer a fascinating glimpse into the medieval mind, revealing a level of curiosity and precision that might surprise modern readers. Some of the most famous works, like those by Frederick II of Hohenstaufen, delve into the anatomy, flight mechanics, and even the psychology of falcons. Frederick's The Art of Hunting with Birds is particularly remarkable, blending practical advice with scientific inquiry. He explored topics like the structure of feathers, the aerodynamics of flight, and the nutritional needs of birds, often drawing conclusions that align with modern understanding. For example, he described how falcons adjust their wings to control speed and direction, a principle that wouldn't be formally studied until centuries later. These treatises weren't just technical manuals, they were also philosophical reflections on the relationship between humans and nature. Falconers saw themselves as partners with their birds, a relationship built on mutual trust and understanding. This perspective was groundbreaking for its time, challenging the notion of humans as mere dominators of the natural world. Instead, falconry emphasized cooperation and respect, ideas that resonate with contemporary views on animal behavior and conservation. The impact of these medieval studies extended far beyond falconry itself. As these writings circulated, they sparked broader interest in the natural world, inspiring scholars to study animals in greater detail. The methods and observations of medieval falconers laid the groundwork for later scientific disciplines, from zoology to ecology. Even today, their work is celebrated for its accuracy and insight, offering valuable lessons for modern researchers. Falconry's contributions to science also highlight the interconnectedness of knowledge in the Middle Ages. Far from being a time of ignorance, this period saw remarkable advancements in fields ranging from astronomy to medicine. Falconry, with its blend of practical skill and intellectual inquiry, exemplifies this spirit of innovation. It reminds us that even the most seemingly niche pursuits can have a profound impact on the broader development of human knowledge. By studying these ancient texts, we gain not only a deeper appreciation for the art of falconry, but also a greater understanding of how medieval thinkers approached the world around them. Their curiosity and dedication continue to inspire, bridging the gap between past and present in the study of the natural world. Though falconry was primarily a pursuit of sport and prestige, it occasionally found its way onto the battlefield, showcasing the remarkable adaptability of these birds. In medieval warfare, where communication and reconnaissance were often challenging, falcons offered a unique advantage. Their speed, agility, and acute vision made them ideal messengers in situations where human couriers might fail or be intercepted. Falcons could carry small scrolls or notes tied to their legs, delivering critical information across enemy lines or over impassable terrain. This method of communication was particularly useful during sieges or in regions with rugged landscapes where traditional routes were blocked or dangerous. Scouting was another rare but strategic use of falcons in warfare. Commanders would sometimes release these birds to survey enemy positions from the air, providing valuable intelligence about troop movements or fortifications. While this practice wasn't widespread, it required highly trained birds and skilled handlers. It highlights the ingenuity of medieval military tactics. Falcons were not just symbols of power, they were tools of war capable of turning the tide in unexpected ways. These military applications also underscored the deep bond between falconers and their birds. Training a falcon for such tasks was a complex and time-consuming process, demanding not only technical skill, but also a profound understanding of the bird's behavior and instincts. A falconer had to trust their bird to return after a mission, and the bird had to trust its handler to provide safety and care. This mutual reliance was a testament to the sophistication of falconry as both an art and a science. Though falconry's role in warfare was limited, it serves as a fascinating example of how medieval societies leveraged their resources in creative ways. Falcons were more than hunters or status symbols. They were partners in survival, capable of adapting to the demands of their time. This versatility reflects the broader significance of falconry in medieval culture, where it bridged the worlds of leisure, science, and even conflict. By exploring these lesser-known aspects of falconry, we gain a deeper appreciation for its impact on history. It reminds us that even the most elegant pursuits can have practical applications, and that the relationship between humans and animals has always been one of mutual benefit and innovation. Falconry was deeply woven into the fabric of medieval society, transcending its role as a mere sport to become a symbol of power, refinement, and cultural sophistication. For the nobility, it was a way to assert their status and distinguish themselves from the lower classes. Owning and training falcons demonstrated not only wealth but also mastery over nature, a quality highly prized in a world where survival often depended on control and resourcefulness. This elevated falconry to a near-sacred status among the elite, making it a defining feature of their identity. The influence of falconry extended far beyond the hunt. It permeated medieval art, inspiring intricate tapestries, illuminated manuscripts, and even architectural motifs. Falcons were frequently depicted in heraldry, adorning coats of arms as emblems of courage, precision, and nobility. These artistic representations reinforced the bird's association with the ruling class, embedding falconry into the visual language of the time. Literature also celebrated falconry, often using it as a metaphor for human relationships and virtues. In medieval poetry and romances, falcons symbolized loyalty, honor, and the ideal of chivalry. The bond between a falconer and their bird was likened to that of a knight and his lord, emphasizing themes of duty and mutual respect. These narratives not only glorified falconry but also shaped the moral and social ideals of the nobility. Politically, falconry served as a tool of diplomacy. Gifting a prized falcon was a gesture of goodwill, often used to forge alliances or secure favors between rulers. The exchange of these birds carried profound diplomatic weight, as the quality of the falcon reflected the giver's esteem and the strength of their relationship. In this way, falconry became a language of its own, facilitating connections and negotiations across kingdoms. Even social norms were influenced by falconry. The strict hierarchy among birds of prey, with the gyrfalcon at the top and the kestrel at the bottom, mirrored the rigid class structure of medieval society. The type of bird one owned signaled their rank, with only the highest nobility permitted to fly the most prestigious species. This codification of falconry reinforced social boundaries and underscored the importance of hierarchy in daily life. By examining falconry's cultural impact, we gain a richer understanding of medieval society. It was more than a pastime. It was a reflection of the values, aspirations, and complexities of the age. Through art, literature, politics, and social norms, falconry shaped the identity of the nobility and left an enduring legacy that continues to fascinate us today. The enduring allure of falconry lies in its ability to bridge the past and the present, capturing the imagination of those who seek a connection to history and nature. Even in our modern world, where technology often overshadows tradition, falconry remains a deeply respected practice, carried on by dedicated enthusiasts who preserve its ancient techniques and values. These modern falconers, much like their medieval counterparts, are drawn to the challenge and artistry of training birds of prey, finding in it a unique blend of discipline, patience, and partnership. Falconry's influence extends beyond the field, leaving its mark on contemporary culture in surprising ways. It has inspired films, literature, and even fashion, where the imagery of falcons and hawks continues to evoke a sense of sophistication and mystique. The sport's ethos, rooted in respect for nature and the pursuit of mastery, resonates with those who value sustainability and skill in an increasingly fast-paced world. Moreover, falconry has found new applications in modern conservation efforts. Falcons and other raptors are now used in eco-friendly pest control, deterring birds from airports or protecting crops without the need for harmful chemicals. This practical use of falconry demonstrates its adaptability and relevance, proving that ancient practices can still offer innovative solutions to contemporary challenges. The legacy of falconry also lives on in the cultural memory of societies around the world. Festivals and reenactments celebrate its history, while museums and historical sites display artifacts that tell the story of its golden age. These efforts keep the tradition alive, allowing new generations to appreciate the artistry and significance of this timeless pursuit. At its core, falconry's enduring appeal lies in its ability to remind us of our shared human history and our intrinsic connection to the natural world. It symbolizes a time when skill and patience were valued above all else, offering a refreshing counterpoint to the immediacy of modern life. Whether through the thrill of the hunt, the bond between falconer and bird, or the echoes of its cultural impact, falconry continues to captivate and inspire, proving that some traditions are truly timeless. Falconry's journey from a practical hunting technique to the ultimate status symbol in medieval courts reveals the intricate ways societies assign meaning to their practices. What began as a method of survival evolved into a powerful emblem of nobility, reflecting the social hierarchies and cultural values of the medieval world. The sport became more than just a pastime. It was a statement of power, a display of wealth, and a testament to the refinement of those who could master it. The symbolic power of falconry extended far beyond the hunt. It shaped the identities of medieval elites who saw in their birds of prey a reflection of their own virtues, strength, precision, and grace. These qualities were celebrated in art, literature, and even the architecture of the time, with falcons adorning everything from tapestries to coat of arms. The sport became a cultural touchstone, influencing the way people thought about themselves and their place in the world. Even today, the legacy of falconry continues to resonate. It reminds us of a time when the natural world was deeply intertwined with human life, and when mastery of a craft was a source of immense pride. As we look back on this fascinating tradition, we gain not only a deeper appreciation for the medieval world, but also insights into the enduring human desire to connect with nature and elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of falconry's remarkable history. If you enjoyed this journey through the medieval courts, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories from the past that continue to captivate and inspire.